This is our first Valentine's Day as a married couple, so it's extra special. Thanks, baby.
Have to wait. Like, nothing can happen unless Kody wants to take action, because his name is on all of the properties.
It was just a second.
Hi.
A blink and you miss it moment. But that eye roll, it said everything. Janelle Brown, the steady, pragmatic wife who for years kept her head down and played the long game, finally let something slip on camera. And it wasn't loud. It wasn't dramatic. It was a single expression, captured in real time, and it rocked fans to their core. Because it wasn't just about that conversation. It wasn't just a reaction to Kody's words. That eye roll was decades of resentment, exhaustion, and quiet resistance bubbling up and finally breaking the surface. Hey everyone, I'm Sarah, and welcome back to TLC Sister Wives Daily. If you've ever seen a moment on this show that made you sit up and go, wait, did she just... This was it. Make sure to hit that subscribe button if you're here for the real breakdowns, the ones that don't sugarcoat what we all saw play out on camera. And if you remember the exact scene I'm talking about, drop your reaction in the comments, because I know I wasn't the only one who felt that jolt. Now, this wasn't some overblown reality TV stunt. This wasn't Christine storming off or Mary breaking down, though those moments matter too. This was something subtler and honestly scarier. Janelle has always been the calm one, the logical one, the one who figured things out without throwing plates or raising her voice. She handled finances, kept the household running, raised her kids, and accepted the chaos of plural marriage with a steady hand. But that eye roll, that was her finally saying enough, even if no words followed. It happened during a group conversation, a tense one, like so many in recent seasons. Kody was in one of his self-righteous rants, probably about loyalty, about being disrespected, or about how hard he works to hold this family together. And while everyone else sat tight, gave polite nods, or looked down, Janelle looked up and rolled her eyes. It wasn't subtle. It was pointed. It was tired. It was the most honest thing she'd done on camera in years. For fans who'd watched this family from the beginning, it was a gut punch. Because we knew. We knew that look didn't come from nowhere. It came from years of biting her tongue, of watching Kody twist narratives, of pretending things were okay when they clearly weren't. And when Janelle rolled her eyes that day, it wasn't about disrespect. It was survival. It was her body finally saying what her voice hadn't dared to say out loud. I'm done pretending this is working. Long before Janelle rolled her eyes on camera, long before the family split down the middle and the masks started falling, there was Christine, the truth teller. The first wife brave enough to say out loud what everyone else was too scared or too conditioned to admit. Kody wasn't showing up for all his wives. And he definitely wasn't showing up for her. Back in the earlier seasons, when the family still tried to sell unity and togetherness, Christine's confession stood out. She didn't package her pain in politeness. She felt it, and she said it. Fans still remember her heartbreaking admission that she felt alone during one of the most vulnerable moments of her life, while pregnant with Truly. That wasn't just a passing complaint. That was a mother carrying a child, watching her husband prioritize someone else while she silently suffered. She wasn't being dramatic. She was being real. And at the time, it shook viewers who were beginning to see the cracks beneath the family's picture-perfect narrative. Christine didn't just express sadness, she revealed a pattern. She opened the door to something that couldn't be unseen. She was the first to expose Kody's selective attention, his tendency to be fully invested in one relationship while neglecting the others. And fans started asking questions. If this is how he treats Christine, what about the others? That's why Janelle's shift years later felt so powerful. Because in many ways, Christine paved the path. She was the one who showed that it was okay to question the system, to stop pretending everything was fair, to acknowledge that just because you signed up for plural marriage didn't mean you deserved to be emotionally discarded. For years, Janelle and Christine were seen as opposites. Janelle, the pragmatic, independent thinker, Christine, the emotional, traditional wife. But over time, Christine's emotional honesty became something Janelle couldn't ignore. The raw truth that Christine shared, that she no longer felt like she mattered in Kody's world, started to echo in Janelle's silence. And make no mistake, Janelle heard Christine. Fans did too. You could see it in the later seasons. How Janelle started to question things she used to accept. How she stood up more in conversations. How she started saying me instead of we. Christine had taken the first blow to the illusion, and while it cost her deeply, it also sparked something. A shift. A ripple. And that ripple eventually turned into Janelle's. Quiet rebellion. That eye roll, that was the aftershock of Christine's original quake. For years, Janelle was the calm in the storm, the steady one, the I'm fine wife who didn't cause waves, didn't raise her voice, and certainly didn't challenge Kody outright, not the way Christine eventually would. But fans who've watched closely always knew just because Janelle wasn't screaming didn't mean she wasn't suffering. Janelle's resistance was never loud. It simmered, quiet, controlled, strategic. You could see it in her body language long before she ever voiced discontent. When Kody went off on his endless loyalty speeches, when Robyn cried those careful, camera-ready tears, Janelle didn't erupt. She checked out. A side glance here, a long pause there, sometimes a sarcastic smirk, and sometimes, like in that now iconic moment, a sharp eye roll that said everything words couldn't. What made it powerful was that Janelle wasn't the type to seek drama. She wasn't looking for a storyline. She was just trying to survive in a structure that no longer worked for her. She kept the peace, even when it meant burying her own needs. She raised her kids, balanced the finances, and figured out life within a chaotic family system. Because someone had to. Kody was too busy choosing favorites. Christine was emotionally unraveling. Mary was trapped in her own heartbreak. And Robyn, well, Robyn was being catered to like the family's chosen queen. So Janelle made herself small, quiet, efficient, but never unaware. There were moments that said it all, like when Kody would talk about unity and Janelle's face would shift just slightly, a flicker of disbelief. Or when he blamed COVID tensions on the wives not obeying his rules, and Janelle calmly said she would not be surrendering her adult sons. That wasn't just a disagreement. That was a line in the sand. And when Robyn would push her version of family values, all teary-eyed and fragile, Janelle never took the bait. She saw it. Fans saw it. The performance, the manipulation, the double standard. And while Christine walked away first, Janelle held the line. Longer, quieter, but with just as much strength. Still, that silence came with a cost. Janelle sacrificed her voice for years, believing maybe, just maybe, that things could work if she stayed neutral, but neutrality became a burden. Being the reasonable wife meant carrying everyone else's dysfunction without complaint. And when the cracks finally showed, when that eye roll broke through, it wasn't about rebellion. It was about release. Janelle's long burn is what made her shift so compelling. Because you don't realize how much someone has endured until they stop pretending. And when Janelle stopped pretending, even in the smallest gestures, it felt seismic. The woman who kept it all together was finally letting it fall apart. And maybe, just maybe, that was the most honest thing she'd ever done. If Christine was the fire and Janelle was the stone, Mary was the shadow, quietly fading into the background as the family evolved without her. Her pain wasn't loud like Christine's, and it wasn't simmering like Janelle's. It was vacant, hollow, a slow, emotional withdrawal that told fans something was deeply broken inside her long before the rest of the world caught up. Mary's struggle wasn't just about losing Kody's affection. It was about losing her identity. She was the first wife, the one who helped build this plural family from the ground up. But over time, that foundation cracked under betrayal, favoritism, and emotional neglect. And when Kody began publicly distancing himself, saying things like, "We don't have a marriage," the hurt didn't just show on Mary's face, it settled there. Her infamous catfishing scandal wasn't just about stepping outside the marriage, it was a desperate cry for connection, for attention, for someone to actually see her again. She had spent years being loyal, obedient, and self-sacrificing, only to be met with icy detachment. And when she finally stumbled, Kody used it as ammunition. He never forgave her, never let her forget it. And instead of repairing the damage, he weaponized it, publicly shaming her while building an emotional fortress around Robyn. What's especially tragic is how Mary internalized the blame. She clung to the family, to the hope that maybe things would get better, even when it was obvious she was no longer part of Kody's vision. She stuck around, not because she was weak, but because she had tied her entire self-worth to a family that had already left her behind. That kind of emotional entrapment doesn't come undone easily. And in many ways, Mary's stagnation became the cautionary tale. The wife who stayed too long, who begged for crumbs, who accepted silence in place of love. It made Janelle's quiet rebellion all the more powerful. Because Janelle saw what waiting looked like. She saw what would happen if she kept pushing down her needs, her worth, her voice. And she knew she didn't want to end up like Mary, physically present, emotionally erased. Mary's pain gave the rest of the wives a mirror, a warning. She was the ghost of what happens when you let someone else define your value. And while Christine chose fire and Janelle chose restraint, Mary was left with the aftermath, a shattered identity wrapped in silence. And that is the contrast that made Janelle's subtle defiance ring even louder. When Robyn entered the family, the dynamic didn't just change, it tilted. Everything started orbiting around her. And while the narrative often painted her as the sweet, overwhelmed fourth wife trying to fit in, fans quickly realized something else. Robyn wasn't just adapting, she was quietly consolidating power. From the beginning, Kody's affection for Robyn was different, tangible, prioritized. He moved mountains to make her comfortable, legally divorcing Mary to adopt Robyn's children, buying her a lavish home while the others scrambled, and spending the majority of his time in her household. While Christine and Janelle were juggling kids, work, and finances, Robyn had Kody's full emotional presence. And she knew it. Janelle, who had always prided herself on independence, found herself on the outside looking in. She watched as Kody's rules became suggestions in one house and mandates in another. During the height of COVID, the double standards were blatant. Kody laid down rigid protocols that Janelle's sons were labeled rebellious for questioning. Yet he seemed perfectly comfortable staying full-time at Robyn's home, where those same standards mysteriously didn't seem to disrupt daily life. Janelle stood her ground, unwilling to exile her grown sons. And for that, Kody pulled away even more. And through it all, Robyn played innocent, confused. "I just want the family to be close," she'd say with those wide eyes and trembling lips, while fully enjoying the benefits of a monogamous setup dressed as plural marriage. Her tears painted her as the victim, but her lifestyle told another story. She had the security, the attention, the steady income. Kody made sure of it. And the wives who had helped build the family's foundation were left watching that foundation crumble from their smaller, lonelier homes. Robyn's household wasn't just more comfortable, it was emotionally protected. She didn't deal with the same kind of neglect because Kody was always there. Involved, present, supportive. The complete opposite of how he showed up, if he showed up at all, for Christine or Janelle. That contrast became impossible to ignore, and Janelle did notice. The sarcasm in her tone when discussing Robyn's confusion. The subtle shift in how she spoke about family expectations. The eye rolls weren't just about Kody, they were about all of it. The favoritism, the performance, the rewriting of plural marriage into a monogamous fantasy that excluded everyone else. Robyn may have claimed innocence, but her comfort came at the cost of everyone else's. And Janelle, after years of biting her tongue, finally let her silence speak volumes. Because when one wife lives like a queen, while the others live like burdens, the cracks can no longer be hidden behind polite smiles and shared faith. When Robyn entered the family, the dynamic didn't just change, it tilted. Everything started orbiting around her. And while the narrative often painted her as the sweet, overwhelmed fourth wife trying to fit in, fans quickly realized something else. Robyn wasn't just adapting. She was quietly consolidating power. From the beginning, Kody's affection for Robyn was different, tangible, prioritized. He moved mountains to make her comfortable, legally divorcing Mary to adopt Robyn's children, buying her a lavish home while the others scrambled, and spending the majority of his time in her household. While Christine and Janelle were juggling kids, work, and finances, Robyn had Kody's full emotional presence, and she knew it. Janelle, who had always prided herself on independence, found herself on the outside looking in. She watched as Kody's rules became suggestions in one house and mandates in another. During the height of COVID, the double standards were blatant. Kody laid down rigid protocols that Janelle's sons were labeled rebellious for questioning, yet he seemed perfectly comfortable staying full-time at Robyn's home, where those same standards mysteriously didn't seem to disrupt daily life. Janelle stood her ground, unwilling to exile her grown sons. And for that, Kody pulled away even more. And through it all, Robyn played innocent, confused. "I just want the family to be close," she'd say with those wide eyes and trembling lips, while fully enjoying the benefits of a monogamous setup dressed as plural marriage. Her tears painted her as the victim, but her lifestyle told another story. She had the security, the attention, the steady income. Kody made sure of it. And the wives who had helped build the family's foundation were left watching that foundation crumble from their smaller, lonelier homes. Robyn's household wasn't just more comfortable, it was emotionally protected. She didn't deal with the same kind of neglect because Kody was always there, involved, present, supportive. The complete opposite of how he showed up, if he showed up at all, for Christine or Janelle. That contrast became impossible to ignore, and Janelle did notice the sarcasm in her tone when discussing Robyn's confusion, the subtle shift in how she spoke about family expectations. The eye rolls weren't just about Kody, they were about all of it. The favoritism, the performance, the rewriting of plural marriage into a monogamous fantasy that excluded everyone else. Robyn may have claimed innocence, but her comfort came at the cost of everyone else's. And Janelle, after years of biting her tongue, finally let her silence speak volumes. Because when one wife lives like a queen while the others live like burdens, the cracks can no longer be hidden behind polite smiles and shared faith. And then, it happened. After years of swallowing her frustration, of staying calm for the sake of peace, of quietly enduring the emotional hierarchy, Janelle spoke. And when she did, it wasn't explosive rage. It was something far more powerful: clarity. In season 17, everything boiled over. The tension, the subtle dismissals, the years of being fine while carrying the emotional weight of an unequal marriage, it cracked wide open. During one of the most unforgettable confrontations with Kody, Janelle finally said the words fans had been waiting for. "You act like this is my fault. You act like I'm being disloyal because I won't throw my kids under the bus. I'm not going to apologize for being close with them." There was no more appeasing. No more eye rolls or half smiles. Janelle looked him straight in the eye and demanded to be heard, to be respected. It was a seismic shift, not just for her, but for the entire show. The woman who once played peacekeeper had become the voice of quiet revolution. And in that moment, when Janelle chose truth over silence, she didn't just confront Kody, she liberated herself. After all the restraint, the real power wasn't in what she held back. It was in what she finally let go. Janelle's decision to finally speak wasn't just a personal turning point, it sent a ripple through the entire Brown family. Her shift, from patient supporter to unapologetic truth teller, marked the unraveling of the fragile illusion Kody and Robyn tried to maintain. It wasn't just Christine who had walked away anymore. Now, Janelle, the wife who was supposed to never rock the boat, had stopped playing the role Kody needed her to play. And once that happened, there was no going back. Christine's bold exit had cracked the foundation, but Janelle's rebellion shattered the illusion of unity. Mary, still clinging to a dream that no longer existed, looked even more isolated and frozen in place. Robyn, caught in a web of her own design, began showing even more signs of distress. Her voice trembling, her eyes darting, her constant pleas for family harmony falling flat. The narrative she had carefully helped build was crumbling, and no amount of tears could patch the cracks. What made Janelle's transformation so emotional for fans wasn't just the drama, it was the dignity. She didn't storm out or scream. She stood firm, grounded in her truth, and finally made herself the priority. And that resonated. Viewers had spent years watching her sacrifice, compromise, and hold it all together. So when she finally let it fall apart, it felt like freedom. The aftermath is still unfolding, but one thing is clear. Janelle's choice to stop hiding behind politeness forced everyone, including the audience, to confront what real love, equality, and self-worth look like. So now we ask, what if she had spoken sooner? Would the family have survived? Or would it have simply ended faster, more honestly, with less damage? Let me know in the comments what you think. I'm Sarah, and this is TLC Sister Wives Daily. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share your thoughts below. Because in this family, silence was never golden, and the truth? Well, it was always just waiting to be heard.